Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of the Web of Conspiracy. I am your host, Adam Webb. This is essentially my premiere episode here on Spreaker Radio. I am excited as I could possibly be to be here on Spreaker. I hope that at least a few of you who were listeners of mine on the old network were able to jump over today and join in and be listening live. If not, it will be available via the archive after the show is done. Um, but once again, it is great to be here. Um, I do feel I have to explain a little bit as to some of my desire to come over to Spreaker Radio. Um, Given what I had gone through, for those of you who've been listening, I'm having some health issues that I've been dealing with, and I really have been needing something that would give me a little more flexibility. And I've been very grateful for the time I had it going beyond radio, but I needed to be able to head into a different direction and be able to be a little more flexible with the show, kind of be able to do some different things with it, and as well as really look for different ways to take greater control in terms of distributing my show and being able to get it out there to people who hadn't been listening to it up to this point. So, as grateful as I was for the opportunity to be there, I am more than excited to be here on Spreaker. Um, like I said, I've got a lot of different things that I want to do here with the show going forward, and I'm going to announce some of those here today. I'm also going to also ask for listener feedback. Part of the reason I do the show is because I want to express some ideas and talk about some content and some things that don't get talked about in the mainstream. So for me to be able to do this show and be able to do it over here on Spreaker, I really want to be able to make sure that I'm talking about things that people are really interested in. And certainly, I have every intention of continuing to do the same kind of topics that I have been doing now for the last several months. So the paranormal, the unexplained, government conspiracies, extraterrestrials, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, like Bigfoot, and just the whole variety of different things that I have covered over the last several months here on the old show. I still want to continue to talk about those things here on the new show and kind of do some different things. As of right now, tentatively, the plan going forward, and I'll have to update this as I go, is to do a show every Friday at noon. Um, I found that the 11 o'clock time wasn't ideal for everybody, um, and the 11 o'clock in the evenings on the old network. So I wanted to go a little bit earlier. My thought process in doing the noon time is that for those who are on lunch break at work, this would be a great little thing to listen on your lunch break. For those of you who have off on Fridays, and you can listen to it live, and then for those of you who prefer to listen to this in the podcast after the broadcast, well, it'll be there for you when you get off of work. Um, and this show, at least preliminarily speaking, I'm only going to do a half an hour. I had been doing an hour up to this point, and I may go back to that. But I feel like I can get what I, at least a topic I think I can treat fairly well in a half an hour's time. However, I do intend on possibly going beyond that here at some point. But to kind of get my feet wet and kind of get started over here on Spreaker, I've decided to only do the half hour format for the time being. Um, that being said, I do have a little more flexibility in terms of how many shows I do in a week. Where I was at before, I was only able to do um, one show a week. So my intention being over here at Spreaker is to have the flexibility to do as many shows basically that I would want to in a given week. I don't have any kind of limitation on that other than, as I said, I'm only doing half an hour a show. So I'm contemplating doing maybe a second show during the week, and perhaps, depending on how well it catches on, I may even at some point, and this is considerably further down the line, maybe even do a daily show. So we'll see. But I have a lot more freedom, as I said, over here, and can do a lot of different things and take greater control over the show, as well as be able to get, hopefully, to get a broader audience. Um, and that's been my goal, and that was a big part of the consideration as to why I came to Spreaker. The opportunity to have access to millions of listeners, which is something I didn't really have as great access to before. Um, so I'm really excited about the opportunity to be over here, and I'm really looking forward to um, what I'd be able to do in the future. Um, some things that I do, as I mentioned, I do have planned definitively. The first being that Friday at noon will be a regularly scheduled program, and I'm gonna at this point, starting next week, take on the topics that I have been discussing all along. So government conspiracies, politics, as well as the paranormal, the unexplained, all those things I'll do. Um, what I might do, if for those of you who listened before, I would often do in the first half of the show, I would do news and politics, and then in the second half of the show, I would do something on, um, you know, whether it be the conspiracies or whether it would be paranormal or cryptozoology. Um, what I'm thinking I'm going to do with the show going forward is sticking to one topic for the half an hour. Um, I may do a quick little brief rundown of news, but it wouldn't be any more than about 2 to 3 minutes worth. So some of the things are going to change up a little bit, and I'm going to condense some things and really work to streamline the show a little bit more going forward. So those are all things that are going to definitively happen. And as I said, I have a lot of plans for what I want to be able to do going forward, especially if the show can take off here on Spreaker and I can reach even more listeners than what I've had. Um, so I'm excited about the opportunities here. I'm excited about the potential that the show could have here at Spreaker. And I know for those of you who are listening, then you know just how easy it is to uh, join Spreaker. It's free to listen, and even for those of you who would desire to want to broadcast on your own, you could even broadcast on your own as well. But for those of you who just like listening to a number of different types of shows, Spreaker is the best place for you. You're going to find any kind of show and program that you would like, as well as quite a number that deal with some of the topics that I discussed with as well. So. But for those of you who are just jumping on board and just downloaded the app or just jumped online and signed up, it's free, it's fairly simple, and it gives me a great deal more control and kind of gives me a chance to polish some things and do some things that I really wasn't able to at the other show. And the key for me is to take a little bit more control over some of the production aspects as well. So it's a little more work for me here. It's a little more work going forward, but I think that the opportunity is there. And I think that for those of you who've been listening to the show, you'll recognize that there's no lack of quality. It's certainly on par, if not better, as well as a chance to go in some different directions that I haven't been able to up to this point. So a lot of potential, and I'm really excited about what I'm going to be able to do here. Um, One thing that I do want to mention for those of you who haven't been following on Facebook or Twitter, um, haven't been posting much in the last couple of weeks. I had a surgery about a week and a half ago now, a second surgery to remove the rest of melanoma from a surgery I had in August. It seems that that's gone well, and I'm certainly feeling much better. So I haven't been on there posting, and I really haven't been updating. And it was during that time that I had made a decision that I was going to move the show. Um, and in doing so, um, there's more work that's involved, as I said. And at first, it was I really kind of, oh, do I really want to take on this much more work? But the opportunity is there to reach a lot more people, which has been my goal uh, from the beginning, and especially for those who understand my take on the current political situation, our government, would understand why it is that I feel it's so important that I reach as many people as possible, uh, given with what I have to work with. So this is a great opportunity for me to reach more people and spread my message there, as well as talking about the paranormal, a taboo subject that yes, it's a little more mainstream now than it had been, but I still think that there's a great deal of stigma that's attached to it. So my hope and my goal in going this direction is to reach even more people and kind of help break down those barriers a little bit more. Um, and I think I'll be able to do that here at Spreaker on a larger scale. So, having made the decision uh, to go out on my own, there's a few more things that I had to take care of on my own in terms of production. One of the things, and I'm working on, and as soon as I have it up and running and ready and able to go, I'm actually working on a website for the show, specifically for the Web of Conspiracy. I've about halfway through constructing it. Um, it's going to take a little bit more time. My goal is to be able to have people who want to listen to the show can listen to it right from the website, be able to post some of the shows up on there, stream them there, and make it a little easier for some people who maybe not be as tech savvy or don't want to jump through as many hoops, be able to make it much easier and be able to have everything accessible via the show's website. So that's been another goal of mine for the show. Yeah, I had a website before with the other show. Now I'm moving on, and this time moving on my own, taking on a lot more of the production aspects of the show. So bear with me on the website. It's a process. Um, I am while I do know a little bit about constructing websites, I do know some things and I don't know everything. And so it's taking me a little bit longer because I want to make sure that what I put together is going to work, it's going to look halfway decent, and is going to be more easily accessible for those who want to find it as quickest way as possible, listen to the show. For those of you who are listening to Spreaker online on your computer, a reminder that the show is also available. Spreaker is available via an iPhone and an Android app, so that makes life much easier. It will make life much easier for me going forward. For those of you who listened to the show in the past, know that I take the show on the road with me often. I did a trip to New Mexico and did some poking around in Roswell as well as some other areas in New Mexico. Um, and I broadcasted from there. The opportunity for me to broadcast from on location is much smoother, much easier for me, and hopefully I can continue to protect the integrity of the show as I go forward. There's still a few other little kinks and little technical things that I need to work out along the way with the show. So from time to time, you may hear a little glitch here or there, and if you do, I apologize. Bear with me. I am working on making sure that I'm putting out the best product that I can for the listeners. Considering that it's free, I think it's a pretty good deal. Um, so, as I said, this is a bit of a learning experience for me, bit of a learning curve for me. I will do my best to make sure that I put out the best quality podcast as well as live broadcast, such as now, um, going forward. Uh, but I've got a lot of great things planned, and I have a lot of things in terms of being able to expand the show. Um, some things down the line that I don't want to address quite yet because it's going to take some time. And it's going to take some time in terms of building an audience through Spreaker. So for those of you who are new to Spreaker, I would urge you to have your friends join, follow the show on Spreaker. That's the best way that I can get a chance to be able to do some really great things with the show and make it even easier to listen to, perhaps have more of the show, as well as expand the number of people getting the message here that I'm putting forth here on the Web of Conspiracy. Um, Depending on the popularity, depending upon my schedule and my time and what I have available, I'm really at this point I'm heavily debating doing a second show a week. As I know, I mentioned this earlier that I could do multiple shows in a given week. I'm really contemplating doing a second show. Um, what I would ask from the listeners is some feedback in terms of what the best time, what is the ideal time that you would like to be able to hear the show. Now, obviously, yes, for those of you who want flexibility, then the podcast is perfect because then it's just whenever you have the time. But if you have suggestion in terms of which time would be best for you, I'm really curious to try to get some sort of consensus as to when people like to listen to the show. I know there's some people who like listening to the show in the evenings at night, especially when we're talking about spookier stuff like Mothman or ghosts or demonic possession, things like that. I know there are a lot of people who like to have a little bit of the thrill of watching it or listening to the show late at night. Um, so I would like to get some feedback in terms of that, or whether or not the time I even air on live matters. If it's really uh, I'll be able to get some of these figures from Spreaker, but I'm really interested to see when people listen to the show the most. So my hope is that I get a little bit of feedback from you all. Please feel free to do that through the social media pages on Facebook and Twitter, Google Plus, as well as shooting me an email, webofconspiracy@gmail.com. So by all means, get in touch with me. Let me know what it is that you like about the show and what it is that you don't like about the show. Um, if you don't like the fact that I'm on Spreaker, well, not much I can do for you there. This is my home for the show, and at least at this moment in time and juncture, it seems to be an ideal fit for me going forward. Um, One thing that I have contemplated doing with the show, and I'd contemplated this at the old network as well, so this is something I've been kicking around for a little while. Um, and I would like to get some listener feedback on this as well. And that's doing for lack of a better way of describing it, a TV show, or more or less a video cast or a live video stream of the show via something along the effects of a YouTube, setting up perhaps a YouTube channel, or just creating some sort of actual video programming as well for the show. I am going to be releasing these audio recordings, the live and whatnot, and the podcasts through YouTube as well. So those will be available on YouTube also. But I'm seriously contemplating doing an actual webcam show, more or less. So I'd like to get some feedback from listeners from that as well. If that sounds like something that you would be interested in seeing, being able to have some video go along with it. I know some people prefer to have a little bit of the visuals go along with some things. So I'm certainly not opposed to doing it. As I said, it would require a little bit more work, but I'm all the willing if that's what the audience is looking for. So I really am looking for a lot of listener feedback right now about the show, because this is an opportunity for me to be able to go in a number of different directions. So uh, what I want to be able to do is focus my energy on taking the show where the listeners want to go. Yes, this is my show, and yes, I will have some control certainly over where I go. But in the same respect, uh, I really want to put something out there that people are going to be genuinely excited and interested in hearing. So I don't want to put something out there that's the same old, same old. And on occasion, talking about some of the topics that we talk about, there are plenty of shows that have been there and done that. The paranormal talk radio was pioneered by Art Bell, who now himself has a new show over on Sirius XM. Um, so there is no new thing under the sun. Um, but what I would like to be able to do is create a program here that is very responsive to the listeners and can go in a direction that people are going to want to go. Um, Another thing that I'll have to continue to work forward and working out the kinks here is going to be taking in callers. I'm still working on that. I have not quite got that all set up and figured out quite yet, but that'll be something that I'll be working towards as well in the future, so that eventually I'll be able to take live calls. And when I take live calls, I'm not going to have a producer with me, so this will be all me. Um, so will be very interesting to see. It'll sort of be, as I mentioned before, Art Bell's days of the unscreened live call-ins that he used to get. He's get some quite a few different characters there. So, um, in doing so, I realize that I'll get quite a variety of people, but that's what I want. I want to get a lot of different feedback from the people that listen to the show. So that's something that I'm working towards getting taken care of here for the show, moving forward here. I don't have a timetable on it. It could be a couple weeks. It could be even within a month or two. I would certainly hope that it doesn't go much longer than a few months before I can get the call-in lines and get all that set up, um, or at least be able to create a method, perhaps maybe even through Skype or something along those lines that I can take callers, and that might very well be the direction that I take this. Might be through Skype. So a few things I'm kicking around. Um, but as I said, this is a one-man show, and being the case, I'm limited to how much time I can give, and as well as to the resources that I have available to put forth the best show that I can for the listeners. So there will be further announcements as I go. I might even, put out some audio announcements, quick 5-minute little pieces through the week describing the show, as well as, of course, I update the social media pages. So I have a number of different outlets that I can reach all the listeners. So for all of you who've been listening from the beginning and you're here, continue to do so. I will continue to do updates in the traditional ways, but as I said, I'm also going to expand and probably do some things through the week and some little audio announcements as well. Um, but I'm very, very excited about what I can do here, and I'm very excited about the opportunities that are available to me here at Spreaker. And above all, the opportunity to reach millions of listeners. So I am very, very stoked uh, to be here. It was a difficult decision to make, um, and there had been some initial contemplation on my part, given what I've been going through, as to whether or not I could, maybe it'd be best if I take a break from the show altogether. And I had initially contemplated that for a few days, but I realized that um, I love doing this show, number one, and number two, that there is a need for a voice like this. At least that's my belief. And from some of the feedback that I've gotten, I stand by that. And there's a need for a voice out there for people to listen to that, you know, doesn't necessarily want to jump on all the other bandwagons. That's not what my intention is here. My intention is to be as forthright and honest about what I see happening in government. Um, I'm more than willing to call out all parties, as I've mentioned before. I don't really see myself aligned with any real political party at this point, which I know for some people it would be disturbing to think in those terms, but I don't. I have some political leanings. Nevertheless, I can't say that I completely identify with either party, nor am I thrilled with either party, given the debacle that we have experienced over the last several weeks. So I will continue to provide that voice, as well as providing a voice that discusses the unknown and the paranormal. Um, I would love to be able to give equal time to these shows, to both of these topics, and that's why I'm thinking about doing more than one show a week. Um, but I've always had a fascination with the unknown and the unexplained and the paranormal. And for those of you who are just jumping in, maybe tuning in, hadn't listened to the show before, I'm going to cover all kinds of different topics. I'm going to cover all the things that that you may see on some of these popular shows, as well as some of the less, the less commonly heard things. The key that the thing that I've enjoyed the most about what I've done with the show is when I get feedback from listeners that have some of their own strange experiences. And I would love to be able to take some time to devote to that as well going forward, to kind of get some listener feedback and listener experiences as well. Um, I know there's a lot of shows out there that do similar things as this. So I recognize that the airwaves are a little bit crowded, both the radio airwaves as well as through the internet. Um, Nevertheless, I feel like I have something that I can offer everybody who would tune into this show, and perhaps a different take on some things. And more importantly, to get listeners to think. And that's what I want all of you who do tune in and listen to this show. Is I want you to think. I want you to take the time to think about these things. Uh, I don't expect you to believe in every single thing that I talk about. I don't expect listeners to, completely buy into every uh, unexplained creature, story, whatever. I don't expect everyone to just blindly listen and blindly accept. My expectation and my hope would be that everybody listen to the stories, listen to what's out there, and judge for yourself. Do some more research on your own if you're interested in it. Um, don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to speak up and talk about some of these strange things, especially if you've had an unusual experience happen to you that you can't quite uh, explain. So my hope would be that that when you finish listening to these programs going forward, that you'll find something that makes you think in ways that you didn't think, well, that were all that possible. I'm not suggesting that you have such an open mind that your brain falls out, but what I am suggesting is that you take the opportunity to listen to what's out there. Over the course of the last several months doing this show, I have come across things that I initially was very skeptical of, did not really buy into, did it because this was an interesting topic and I really wanted to provide for the listeners a well-rounded program here. And so I get into some topics that perhaps I'm thinking, well, do I really buy into this? I've never seen anything like this, so can I really buy into it? And I think for myself personally, um, there's been a couple of occasions when I've been forced to reassess my thinking about particular subjects. So my hope would be that the listeners and you all that are listening and taking the time to tune into the show come away with the same kind of experience that I do, and that, okay, I've heard of this stuff, but I never really considered it. But after hearing some of the things that he talked about, well, then maybe there's something here. And my hope going forward is that I can also bring aboard some other guests, some other people who've written and discussed and have some expertise talking about some of the topics that I'll discuss, to call in and be able to do some other things like that with the show. And I really haven't gone much in that direction as of yet, but that was my hope as I expand the program going forward. Um, so there's a lot of big things I have planned. And for those of you who are jumping over, come over with me, expect a little bit more of the same, but expect a few changes, I think, for the better. For those of you who are new to the show, have not listened or are just tuning in for the first time here on Spreaker, um, this is going to be a little different than what you've heard, I think, in some cases. Yes, you can tune into shows and you can hear talks about UFOs and extraterrestrials and government conspiracies and politics and all these strange and incendiary topics. But I don't know that you're going to get quite the same perspective that I offer, and that's my hope, is that you at least come away thinking differently, or at least questioning something that maybe you hadn't quite questioned before. So that is my hope going forward for the show. As I said, I've got a number of plans going forward and some things that I'm concrete working on, as well as some things that I'm looking to get some feedback from. Um, Check in, if you haven't, follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus. Check out the links there. Got some stuff occasionally I put on there. As I said, I'm working on the website, and once I have that up and running, I'll make sure I send an announcement out on all those, as well as here on Spreaker. Um, in the meantime, um, until next Friday, hope everyone has a safe and great week ahead. And I'll be posting perhaps announcements coming forward as to what the topic will be next Friday. Until then, have a good one.